We may be anxious, and we may be depressed. We may have worries and concerns. We may be dealing with trauma that hasn't been addressed, maybe struggling in our relationships. I mean, just a plethora of things happen in life. And, it's okay to not be okay. You don't have to be a superwoman or a superman. You don't have to have it together all the time, because none of us do. And I think if we normalize uh, that life has hiccups, that there are mountains and valleys within the life experience, then we're in a better position to appreciate and understand that it's okay to not be okay. Right? It's and to go a step further, it's okay if my family member is not okay. It's okay if my child is not okay. If a lot of my clients are actually adolescents, youth and adolescents, um, and that's okay. Uh, it's okay. It's okay if a parent or a grandparent or someone even younger may be dealing with dementia or Alzheimer's. It's okay to not be okay. And in the past, a lot of times we use derogatory and demeaning language to to characterize individuals who had mental health related issues. Um, and so we got to do some deprogramming and and really begin to appreciate that it's okay to not be okay. Right? Stigma. Let's talk about stigma. What is stigma? Just a basic definition of stigma is that stigma is a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. A mark of disgrace, shame. And for a long time, and I'm understanding that I'm talking to primarily believers, for a long time, one of the problems that I've personally had with religious folks is this notion of shame and hypocrisy, where we have, in a lot of cases, um, not really demonstrated compassion and love and patience and understanding with individuals um, who may be having particular struggles related to life circumstances, related to mental health issues. Um, Stigma is not a good thing, and nobody needs to, and nobody desires to live with some type of stigma. Um, and it's health. So let's talk about some ways to reduce stigma and the stigma that is attached to mental health. Part of what we're doing right now in this effort throughout this month and other occasions, we're talking about it. That's one way we can reduce the stigmas, by talking about it, by through education, uh, encourage equality between physical and mental illness. That's one thing that we need to do. We need to understand that the brain is an organ, that there are actually 11 major systems in the anatomy of the human body, and the neurological system that includes the brain and various components and hormones associated with 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 our humanity is normal. We wouldn't stigmatize someone who has a broken leg or someone who has um, some type of dermatological uh, or skin issue. We wouldn't necessarily stigmatize someone who has um, some type of problem with their cardiovascular system. We need to understand that the neurological system, the brain, the hormones and chemicals associated with our thinking and reasoning ability, uh, our just ability to function is an organ. And so, just like we can have physical illness, we can have mental illness. And there is no shame associated with that because it, in a lot of cases, it's a biological issue. When we're thinking about brain injuries and things like that, those are mental health issues. The same as schizoaffective disorder or schizophrenia or ADHD or autism, Alzheimer's. There, these are physiological issues, and they don't deserve the stigma that they've experienced historically. So we can encourage a sense of equality. Also, we can educate ourselves and others about mental health, and that's what we're doing here with this open mic. We're educating ourselves. We're educating others about what is mental health. Um, we can reduce the stigma further by not labeling or stereotyping people with mental illness. Um, that's one way we can reduce the stigma. We can choose empowerment over shame. Choose to empower people rather than shaming people. Don't use disrespectful terms when you talk about people or mental health. The former president went on and was seen on national television mocking individuals who have mental health disorders. And so we have to be conscious and deliberate and intentional about our language. Be positive, be a positive mental health role model. Um, one who's not ashamed, one who is open, one who looks after their own mental health and encourages others to do so as well. Talking openly about it, you know, historically in our families, we have been contributors to the stigma because uh, we have individuals in our family who have some type of mental health related illness or issue. We kind of just push them aside, and they fall in the background, if you would. Um, and then we can also show compassion and love for those with mental illness. Those are some basic ways that we can reduce the stigma that is attached to mental health. All right. Um, what is mental health? What is mental health? Mental health includes our emotional, our psychological, and our social well being. It affects how we think, feel, and act or behave. It also helps determine how we handle stress, um, how we relate to other people, how we make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence throughout adulthood. And that's basically what it is, Um, how healthy we are mentally will affect how we think, feel, and behave. And it involves our emotional, our psychological and our social well-being. All right. Um, Ways to maintain positive mental health. How do we maintain positive mental health? Um, Getting professional help when we need it, and if we need it. Um, Being open to that, not being resistant uh, to getting help if we need it. Um, and in some ways, minorities historically have been underserved in all of the health related fields, both for physical and mental health. Um, we sometimes are slow to act. We don't seek the help that we need when we need it. So we can maintain positive mental health by getting help if we need it. Um, Secondly, by connecting with others. We saw in the definition of mental health that it has a social component. And I think that's important as well, as especially as um, we have been in this pandemic with the quarantine and the social distancing and wearing the mask and all of those types of things has disrupted our social connections. It has disrupted our social life, our social gatherings, which play a part in our mental well-being, right? Staying positive, um, having a positive outlook and positive perspective outside of thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Perspective, I think, is very important. How we look at things, uh, the um, the um, the angle in which we look at things. So staying positive, getting physically active, that helps us with our mental health. Uh, Exercise gets the blood flowing, gets the heart rate up, helps us to do some detoxing with our breathing, distracts us from things that's going on, um, and it gets some good endorphins, natural endorphins released, which which is good for our mental health. Also, there's a sense of achievement that goes along with that. If we look better, we feel better, all of that helps with our mental health. So being physically active is important as well. Helping others, helping others. There's nothing like helping somebody else that that really benefits our mental health, our well-being, because we're social beings. Um, Getting enough sleep, getting enough sleep um, has a lot to do with our mental health and getting the right type of sleep. Um, that's important. And there are ways to monitor and gauge whether or not you're getting enough sleep. You can just keep a sleep journal. Um, some people go to sleep, some people fall asleep. A lot of us just fall asleep, but people who go to sleep, they prepare for sleep. They have a bedtime, they have a bedtime ritual and routine that they keep and they follow. And when they get up the next day, they feel refreshed. You're struggling with your sleep if you're not feeling refreshed, if your energy is low, if you're sleepy throughout the day. Chances are you're not getting uh, good sleep hygiene, and you may just be falling asleep rather than going to sleep. So, getting enough sleep. Uh, and some people have sleep apnea and don't know it. Um, I was one of those people for years. I was getting plenty of sleep, so I thought. As far as the amount of time that I spent in the bed, I thought I was getting, but I was tired, I was sluggish. Um, and then my doctor suggested that I do a sleep study, and it's like, oh, you got sleep apnea, you need a CPAP machine. That changed the game. I mean, it really changed the game. I didn't know that I didn't know. I had become, I had normalized running on fumes. I thought I was supposed to feel run down and tired all the time and sleepy all the time. No, that wasn't normal. So getting enough sleep, that's very important. And developing coping skills, learning how to cope with things. Stuff is going to happen. It just goes with the territory of living. Um, so things like learning how to cope with anger, how to cope with sadness, how to cope with adversity, how to cope with death and loss. That's how we maintain a positive mental health. All right. Um, let's talk some about mindset, and again, perspective. And generally, there are two different mindsets, two different perspectives. Um, one is kind of fatalistic and kind of deterministic, in that it views intelligence as static. Um, that life is pretty much what it is, and this is as good as it can get. Um, so people with this type of mindset will determine, or they want to look smart. All right, they want to look smart. Um, so with this mindset that things are pretty much fixed, um, they avoid challenges. They give up easily due to obstacles. They see effort as fruitless. I can't tell you, uh, all of the people that I see fall into this type of mindset initially. When they come into the office for the first time, most of them, they can check most of these boxes. They see their effort as fruitless. I keep doing this, and it's not helping. It's not changing anything. They ignore useful feedback. Yeah, yeah, I understand. When I'm saying that I'm seeing adolescents, they aren't telling their parents they need to go see a counselor. Their parents are saying you need to see a counselor, um, because they have fallen in the category of not taking good feedback, useful feedback, whether that's from teachers or coaches or parents, etc. Um, and with this mindset, individuals tend to be threatened by the success of others. Why? Because it would only make sense for them to be threatened by the success of others if they had the mindset that, this is as good as I can get. I can't get any better. I can't grow. All right. You know, Individuals on this side that look at things as static, they said, okay, I can't grow. All right. But a growth mentality, a growth mindset believes and looks at intelligence as something that can be developed. I can learn how to do this. I can um, I can embrace the challenge. I'm not worried about the challenge. I'm not overcome by the challenge, because this is an opportunity for me to learn. This is an opportunity for me to grow. Um, these individuals uh, persist despite obstacles. Okay. Um, these, the difference between the students who make it and the ones who don't is often a matter of perspective. It's often a matter of their mindset. On the first day of nursing school, I don't know, there was over 100 of us in the auditorium, and they passed out pieces of a puzzle for every one of us, and they said, okay, 3 years from now, when at the graduation, most of you won't be here because it was challenging. It was intentionally challenging. There were a lot of obstacles that come up because life didn't stop happening for any of the students. But the ones who had a growth mentality, a growth mindset, they persisted. Well, okay, maybe I did poorly on this exam or poorly in this course. They didn't give up. They persisted. Um, Maybe a loved one got sick, but they didn't quit. They didn't give up. They persisted. Um, with the growth mindset, people see effort as a path to mastery. All right, if I can keep doing this, I can master it. You don't. No one runs a marathon the first day they start running. And in fact, they probably don't even start running. They may start walking, may start just counting their steps. And then maybe they start a mile and walk a mile. And, then that goes to, okay, we're going to take that to a brisk walk. From there, we're going to, uh, take a light jog there. And then we're going to increase the distance. They see effort as a path to mastery. It's not something that is being wasted. All right. And that's the mindset of the growth mindset that is often associated with mentally healthy people. Uh, People learn from criticism. The people with a growth mindset, they learn from criticism. In fact, they probably seek it out. They more than likely they have a life coach, they have a therapist, they got a pastor, they got a mother or a father or somebody in their life that is pouring into them, that is giving them some constructive and healthy criticism, and they embrace it. All right. And with the growth mindset, individuals, they are inspired by the success of others. They're not threatened by it. Um, they see that as, hey, if they can do it, I can do it. You know what? They went through all of that, and they still turned out okay. I can too. They had problems, in childhood, like I did, and they're doing okay. I can make it too. They're doing well on their business in spite. I can do that too. They're not threatened by it, they're inspired by it. Okay, so that's a healthy mindset. Okay. um, I want to get through most of this and allow some time for some dialogue. Just want to talk a little bit about self-differentiation. Self-differentiation is, there's a lot of different theories about the self. There's a lot of different ways to talk about the self. From a psychoanalytic standpoint, it would be ego, id, superego, the Freud stuff. Self-differentiation is a concept from the late Dr. Murray Bowen, um, and his work. one of the reasons I like him because he's a systems-oriented uh, uh, psych, psychiatrist. He believed what he did uh, was kind of groundbreaking in that he took individuals who had schizophrenia, and normally at that time they would just hospitalize the patient. But instead of just hospitalizing the patient, he hospitalized the entire family. It's a system. It's you know it, it's not just one person's problem. It's everybody's problem. So what he started to to show was that how we react and how we operate and function within a family has significant influence on our behavior, because some of the things that came out of systems work and research is that human behavior has some predictability to it. That there are patterns. Um, for instance, we believers, especially from a Christian perspective, we talk about generational curses and things like that. Um, Bowen wouldn't call those generational curses; he would call them generational patterns. And so it's amazing that when you start really doing genograms and looking at family history, uh, you'll see patterns, and these patterns might be, okay, how do we deal with death in this family? How do we deal with conflict in this family? You'll see patterns of that. All right. So back to self-differentiation. What Bowen said is that every person has a certain amount of self, a certain amount of self, which he calls self-differentiation. Uh, Abraham Maslow would call it self-actualization. Bowen refers to it as self-differentiation. To the degree that we can do these five things is to the degree that we are um, self-differentiated. And what it means to be self-differentiated is that I am a mature, functioning adult who chooses to be interconnected and interdependent with my family and other people that I choose to be with. And Bowen also pointed out through research that we usually uh, mate with people who are about the same level of self differentiated we are. So, a self differentiated person, the more you can make your decisions based upon principles rather than feelings, the more differentiated you are, because you are not making your decisions based upon family tradition. You are not making your decisions based upon social constraints or social pressure or peer pressure. The more you make your decisions based upon principle rather than emotion or feeling, the more differentiated you are. All right. Secondly, the ability to remain non-reactive in the face of reactivity. In other words, when folk are going off and folk are panicking and losing their mind, we see it all the time. Road rage. We see folks in the grocery store and different places, going off because somebody didn't have a mask on. Somebody talking crazy to you. The more you cannot allow, the more you don't allow the the anxiety of other people to affect you, the more differentiated you are. Right. All right. The ability to tolerate pain for growth. All right. Um, the more differentiated you are, the more you are able to tolerate pain, discomfort, make sacrifice for growth. Okay. Um, Back when I was really working out and being consistent in the gym and things of that nature, there was a guy there that I looked up to. He was a teacher, about 15 years older than I was, but I mean, just slim, had his stuff together. And whenever I came, he was there and he had a routine. And I said to him one day, man, I don't know how you do this. He said, oh, I don't do it because I like it. He said, I don't like anything about this. He said, I do it because I like the results. And I just never forget that. You know, this is a self-differentiated person. He isn't he wasn't bought into, it didn't matter who came or who didn't come, he was going to be there because he wasn't there to make friends. He wasn't there to socialize. He was there to do his work, not because he enjoyed it, but because he liked the results. So differentiation is the ability to tolerate pain for growth. You know, and sometimes there are growing pains. There can be growing pains in relationships. There can be growing pains in your finances. But, you know, if you see that at the end, hey, this is going to be a good thing, all right? The pain of saying no to self, all right? So, and then again, okay, self differentiation is the ability to self regulate emotionally, to regulate your own emotions to the degree that you can regulate your own emotions, calm yourself, um, is to the degree that you are self differentiated. The ability to keep one's emotional functioning consistent across domains. In other words, from an emotional standpoint, you are the same person at work, at church, at home, when you go back home, wherever home is, um, whether that's in Mississippi, Tennessee, like that's where my home is, Tennessee, you the same. All right. So those are just some principles about self-differentiated people. And I would say to the degree that we can practice these things, you know, we're going to be healthier from a mental standpoint. Right. And then finally, I want to just share some things from my own personal life. I'm not only um, a professional counselor, but I'm a client. You know, I have a therapist. Um, you know, and I've spent a lot of time in therapy, dealing with life, dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety, life changes, etc. So, but here are just some things from my personal life that I think are really beneficial for our mental health. And the first one is gratitude is essential to a fulfilling life. You know, being thankful every day, uh, and training ourselves and educating ourselves to be grateful. You can do gratitude journals. You can do affirmations. Um, you can through prayer, through meditation. There's just so many ways to increase your level of gratitude. All right, mindfulness, learning to be present in the moment. Um, you know, we're sad about things in the past. We're fearful anxious about things in the future. But what about just being in the moment, being present without judgment? Okay. Um, Learning how to fight for yourself. You know, you can't. I could have put some more in here. Um, you're not the Messiah. You're not the Savior. You know, you didn't down a cross for anybody. And if you did down a cross, it wouldn't save anybody because there's no salvation in your blood. So by learning how to fight for yourself, you model that and you give other people permission to learn how to fight for themselves. Fight for their health, fight for their well-being, fight for their financial independence, whatever it is they desire to do. Um, the word no is a complete sentence that requires no explanation. A lot of us don't say no enough. And just because you got it, don't mean you got to give it.
Preach.
You know, you don't. Time, talent, you ain't got to give it just because you got it. You know, and a lot of times we end up struggling mentally because we don't know how to say no. Because we got a Messiah complex. We're trying to save everybody. All right. Adulthood is about learning to take responsibility for yourself. You know, that's what adulthood is about. That's what about, growing up. Paul said, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I understood as a child, I spake as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. It's about learning to take responsibility for yourself. And then finally, don't worry about your face when your butt is on fire. Don't worry about don't you worried about what you look like. You worried about your reputation, what people think, what they gonna say. Man, your behind is what's on fire. You need to deal with that. Prioritize. Deal with your hurts, deal with your pain. All right. Okay, so that kind of brings us to where I wanted to be, and we can have some Q&A and take it from there.
Amen, brother.
Dr. Matthews,
Yeah.
on this final slide, the personal experience,
Yeah.
under what topic was that? Is that coping mechanisms? This last slide.
Yeah, they're more philosophies, things that I've learned from in my own journey.
San Fran's is talking, but she's muted.
Come on, Sam. You're on mute again. This is not like Sam. She's one of the best and brightest at the crew.
Oh gosh, what happened? Okay, can you repeat the part about self-differentiation? I like that part. Could you expound or repeat that?
What about just the concept itself?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you could change the word. You could use maturity. You could use personhood. how developed am I as a full functioning adult? All right. Children are driven by their emotions. Adults have to learn how to manage their emotions. You don't have to deny them or even suppress them, but they do have to be managed. And the more I can manage those emotions and make a decision based upon principle. For instance, let's use some practical examples. So, for instance, let's say a kid is looking at going to college, and their friends are going to this particular school, and they talked about going to that school for a couple of years, and they get accepted to the school, but they don't get a scholarship to that particular school, but they do get a scholarship to a different school. Now that kid, an adult person who's really thinking through this opportunity, is probably going to make a more principled decision and accept a scholarship, right? But it doesn't even have to be that big. It could be very small. It could be, all right, well, I just got paid. You know what? I think I want to go out of town this weekend. I ain't paid my bills yet, and I know I got some stuff coming up, but you know what? Forget about it. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. All right. That's not a very principled decision, right? That there's some emotions that's driving that. Okay. It happens in dating all the time. So there's just a thousand different ways to look at how do we make decisions. Am I making decisions just based on how I feel? Or am I making decisions that are really based upon the principles that I believe in, the values that I hold, the dreams that I want to fulfill? So as we're talking about self-differentiation, we're talking about how am I thinking? What is the balance between my thoughts, my feelings, and my behavior? Am I just the Bible talks about this stuff too. It talks about it in terms of the flesh is one way that it talks about it. Carnality is another term that's used. Galatians chapter 5 is one of the places I have to go to when I'm teaching self-differentiation, because when you look at what the emotions can lead us to, it can be very harmful. So we need emotions, and we need healthy emotions, but emotions don't need to run the show. They don't need to run the show. All right. So I have to be able to make decisions, principled decisions. All right. Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane says, let this cup pass from me. That's the flesh. Let this cup pass from me. I'm suffering here. I know what's coming. But he makes a principled decision that says, nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. So Jesus is an ultimate example of someone who is self-differentiated. Right? Is that helping, or do I need to continue?
Dr.
No,
Matthews?
that was good.
Okay.
Dr. Matthews, I loved of the example that you gave in regards to self-differentiate about the young man who's at the gym And no matter whether anybody's there or not, he's going to be there. And I remember an older person told me when I was young, and it stuck in my mind, or some kind of uh, athletic trainer, some of what they said, compete with yourself and not with others. You know, comparing yourself, it will slow you down. And another self-differentiated party, you mentioned Jesus, but Noah, and this is key. Noah was saved out of the entire world with only 8 other souls, but God said he was righteous. If Noah had been comparing himself, I think this would be opposite of the young man in the gym or Jesus, you know. So just being able to, and I don't know if you've seen Dr. Matthews, but when you were speaking of these examples, I put in capital letters, this
Okay.
is easier said than done, you know. But you know, and that's of course in the competitive world, but in the world of faith, I mean, in the world of Christianity, faith, you know, it differentiates or causes us to be self-differentiated.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff.
At this time, the floor is open for you to ask any questions or to reveal any comments that you have uh, for Dr. Matthews' presentation. Wonderful job, Dr. Matthews.
Thank you.
Very, very good job. So the floor is yours, crew, and our guests. If you need to expound or use the comments, or feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. We want to make sure that, of course, you have what you need to take away and use it in your everyday lives. So feel free to unmute yourself. If you do not have a question in mind, Dr. Matthews, if you don't mind, would you please submit your contact information, the best way to contact you in the chat, so folks can take that down and reach out to you as needed.
Sure.
So let's give Dr. Matthews another round of applause, a virtual hand clap. Dr. Matthews is, he's, like I read in his bio, he's well connected and highly sought out after for many, many different events. And so I'm so thankful for him. I was very excited when he accepted the invitation, as he said, as he mentioned his excitement. And so I'm thankful we got to work together on a couple of virtual speaking events, and he's doing a great work at the Bold Believers Church in Dayton, Ohio. So please connect with him on Facebook as well. His group, his congregation facilitates a group therapy each Tuesday night. And I've had the opportunity to speak there, and it's a great avenue, a great platform for people to support each other in a non-judgmental, non-threatening type of way. So that's what we have here at in a virtual dimension. This is what we have that God has blessed us with. So let's utilize it to the best of our ability. So it's Dr. Cleavon Matthews' information is in the chat. Email is in the chat. For all of you who jumped on a little bit late, don't worry. We did record this session, and so we will make sure you get contact information to you during our announcements. And so please stick around for our announcements. We have some good things headed your way within the crew as a whole. So stay tuned for that. So last call for questions, last round. I'm gonna give y'all about 30 seconds to unmute yourself if you have anything. If not, we'll move forward.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Just a personal question. I know us as African Americans, we tend to shy away from counseling and things of that nature. In today's time, do you think, as a whole, you think that's getting better where or just opening up and sharing what we go through?
Are taking better care of themselves. we still have a very, very long way to go. And I think that there is still a lot more stigma among the African American male than the African American female as it pertains to stigma related to resistance to mental health services. I think we're taking some very small steps toward improvement. By the way, whoever put the definition of self-differentiation in the chat, that's excellent.
Very good question. All right. Are there any more questions?
Yes, hey, how y'all doing?
Good.
Okay, so Dr. Matthews, can you advise on, I think it's paranoia schizophrenia, that disorder?
Did you say advise on it?
Yes, like, or, you know, I guess I'm seeking knowledge on it because we have a family member who has been diagnosed with it, and there's been a drastic change in his behavior. And so we're trying to understand, you know, if he really has it or not.
How old is this individual?
He'll be 42 in November.
At what age was he diagnosed?
I want to say about 10 years ago, but it's like it's on and off. Sometimes he's normal, sometimes he's not.
Okay. Who diagnosed him?
I want to say a facility in Mississippi. I'm not sure of the name of it, but he's on medicine, and I forgot the name of it also. He's supposed to take it daily.
Okay, so the fact that this has been going on for 10 years, the fact that he was in a facility and obviously seen, had to been seen either by a psychologist or psychiatrist in order to get medication. And there's from your own report that that there are problems, things out of the norm that, as far as their behavior is concerned, lens toward, you know, something is going on. What type of behavior do you observe?
He's up at like 3 or 4 in the morning, disturbing the peace. He talks to himself, and he takes pictures of people's windows in their houses. And he walks up behind people. It's like he's posing a threat to them.
Okay. Yeah. So your question is whether or not this person has a mental health issue, or is it specific to the diagnosis?
Maybe it's specific to the diagnosis, and I like the understanding of it, because it's like I said, sometimes he's normal and sometimes he's not, and we feel like he can turn it on and off, which we may be wrong. We're just not sure.
Okay.
Like the other day, he texted some family members for some money for food. He said that he was starving, but we know that he gets food stamps or whatever. So we're like, what do you need money for food for if you get food stamps? And it's like he tries to manipulate also. So we're like, if you're conscious enough to ask for money for food, then you're conscious enough to take your medication.
Okay.
I'm like, it's just up and down.
Here is the thing, and I would probably suggest, I don't know the enough of the dynamics, but I would highly suggest that at least the people that are, you know, involved in his life seek some type of counsel on how to manage and how to, you know, how to respond what boundaries to draw, because you can't make an individual take medication, and a lot of times they're resistant and non-compliant with medication because they don't like how it makes them feel.
Mm.
And unfortunately, that's one of the major problems with mental health in this nation. That's why a lot of people who have mental health issues end up homeless, end up in prison, because um, there is the treatment is not adequate,
Mm.
and you can't, unless they are a threat to themselves or to other people, bringing people into imminent danger. There's not a whole lot we can do. So my advice is to reach out to somebody in your area, a professional in your area, and talk to them about the concerns, uh, and in this particular case.
Okay. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
Can I say just something quick? Now I'm not saying I am an expert, but I do currently work with those who have schizophrenia and they are pretty well functioning. Just a bit of advice. I I know you said something of the sort, like if you're, I think, aware enough to ask for money, you can be aware enough to take your medicine. Now, like Dr. Matthews did say, he did say, sometimes they don't like the way the medicine feels, but a lot
Mhm.
of it comes from just wanting to hear somebody, or to have somebody listen to you or hear what you're saying. That I've learned helps with them, taking their medications, explaining, why it's needed. Sometimes you may even need to go as far as explain the chemical imbalance of the diagnosis that could help. But it is something that you have to be extremely patient with, because since it's mental health, it's not really tangible. You can't see it. It's not a concrete idea. So you kind of have to go off, the behaviors or what they tell you, because you can't actually physically see inside of their head. But it
Right.
does take a lot of the patience. And I mean, I think that's something we all as Black people need to learn to do, is just talk and listen. Now, I'm not saying every conversation is gonna go, great, but talking and allowing them to express, what they're feeling or what they're thinking or what's going on, or even giving them a choice. Because sometimes giving them a choice will actually push them to take it, because they're not feeling forced. Some people just push back because they feel like they don't have another choice. So it just takes, like I said, a lot of patience. Now, I don't have any family members that I know of, but like I said, I work with them on a daily. I live in the home with them. So
Okay.
it can get very stressful, but I learned they're just talking, because they're still people at the end of the day.
Right, right, right. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Hey, Dr. Matthew, I have another question.
Yeah.
I know people tend to come to the church for help with their mental illness. And a lot of people at the church are not skilled in that area. So what advice would you give? Because I know, of course, you got some people who feel like the Bible is all you need. But I think there is more, where somebody who is skilled in counseling, that, would be the advice. But if a person comes to the church where no one is skilled, what advice? I mean, are there any type of online classes or any type of courses kind of prep you for, situations like that?
The great question. The whole reason I went to that I got a degree in professional counseling was because of this problem in the church. That that people were coming to me as their minister uh, for things that they were describing as spiritual problems that to me were obviously mental health issues. And I was not I was not equipped to address that. So in my particular case, I decided I was going to go to school and obtain a degree and a license because I want to help people. I don't want to hurt them. And I think more of this is happening in the church now, where I think the importance for church leaders is to recognize their limitations. Um, and then the second thing is to recognize the professionals within the church, within the community, within the city, and build relationship. If almost all congregations now, somebody in every city, there's going to be somebody in the city that's got the credentials and the skills to help people with mental health issues, based upon what I'm seeing and what's happening in this area. Um, I'm in Dayton, South Ohio. Cincinnati is about 40 minutes from us. So within our congregation, there's me. Christy has a professional license. I got a couple folks that have social work degrees. Down at Gray Road, one of the elders is a LPC. They have a psychologist within the congregation, and they've got a couple LPCs in the congregation. So the resources, what I'm seeing is more and more this issue is being recognized. We just have to get the people, the leaders, to recognize their limitations, and build connections with resources so that they can refer their members to people who are qualified. And I wouldn't recommend that. I know I did it, but I wouldn't recommend ministers or pastors to become LPCs or psychologists with the intent of serving their members, because you create a dual relationship where on the one hand you're a minister pastor, on the other hand you're a clinician therapist, and those are two separate roles, and it's easy to get those confused, and et cetera, et cetera. I hope I've answered your question. What the church has to do is recognize and use the people that God has given us who have these skills, get to know them, and be comfortable referring folks to them.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
I love the dialogue. These are very good questions. Very good questions. I'm loving it. Dr. Matthews got them going in the chat tonight.
Oh, it's going in the chat.
Going, yeah, got a lot of good feedback in the chat, a lot of good dialogue in the chat as well. So this means that we're growing, right? This means we're growing mentally and spiritually in our own personal lives. So I hope tonight you found the power in your own voice through Dr. Matthews' presentation to affect change in your personal lives, as well as in your homes and your relationships. So let's give Dr. Matthews one more virtual hand clap for just a magnificent job tonight. This is only supposed to be an hour, but in dialogue, when the Lord's Spirit starts to move, you kind of just got to feel it and go along with it. And although this is educational, this is definitely spiritual refreshment, because we're at the Crew, we are believers first. And then what we do, what we carry out, is God's calling on our lives and the Spirit that we should utilize to do that. So again, Dr. Matthews, thank you so much for your time tonight. Are there any more final questions or comments? If so, you have Dr. Matthews' contact information, and you also learn ways you can connect with the Crew as well. If this event was meaningful to you, hopefully, prayerfully, we can do this again. here very, very soon. And so we thank you so much, Dr. Matthews. And so at this time, we're going to wrap up with some announcements, and we're going to close with a word of a prayer, and then we'll be done for the night. So San is one of our crew members here. She's going to deliver our announcements for tonight, and I'm going to try to share my screen as well so that you can see and mirror what San is saying. So San.
Okay, I'm here.
Doing.
Once again, thank you, Dr. Matthews, for delivering a powerful, life-changing message. To all of our visitors, we are so glad you decided to join us, and we do not take it for granted. All first-time guests, 18 through 40, please fill out, or even if you're above 40, please fill out the Crew Connect form located in the Zoom chat. We love to get to know you and include you in our updates. Have you filled out your crew membership form? In order to track your membership, please fill out the crew membership form in the Zoom chat. City View Church presents in-person worship. Worship will begin at 9:15 a.m. We will social distance in the building and masks are required. A Facebook Live recording will be available as well. Guests are limited. And that concludes the announcement.
Very good. Yes, thank you. So if you're a first-time guest to Open Mic Night, if this is your very first night, will you please drop a thumbs up in the virtual chat or on your screen? If this is your very first time, I want to recognize you. I want to just say hello and just let you know how appreciative we are that you've joined us on tonight. Thank you so much. Kira Adams, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Look forward to having all of you all back. Hi, do you have anything you want to say?
Thank you guys for having me. I truly enjoyed myself tonight.
All right, where you calling in from?
I am from Senatobia, Mississippi, and I attend West Gilmore Street Church of Christ.
All right, Mississippi. They got some good cooks out there in Mississippi too.
They do.
I know that's right.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kira. So please make sure.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I wasn't able to put the thumbs up in the chat. I'm on my desktop, but
okay.
It's my first time to. We from West Gilmore Street Church of Christ. It's me, Kyra, Heather, and Felicia. So we just happy to join you all, and we enjoyed everything.
I love it. Awesome, awesome. Yes, I have family out in Mississippi, so when I come out that way, I'll definitely link up with y'all. I look forward to connecting. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. So feel free to check out the chat box. Our Linktree website is there for you to connect with all of our sites with just one link. And so feel free to catch up with us and let us know how we can serve you the best way we can. We look forward to connecting with you as well.
I'm sorry, one quick thing. Thomas, do we have the connect form in the chat for them to fill out?
It's in that Linktree.
Okay.
It's in the Linktree.
Okay, do you guys, Myron and Kira, do you see that in the chat?
You may have to scroll up.
Yes, I see it.
Okay, yes, if you could please fill that out so that we can stay connected with you guys.
Okay, most definitely.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you all so much. Is there anyone else that are here for the very first time to Open Mic? We don't want to overlook anyone. All right, if not, it's good to see Sister Montgomery in the building one more time, and Forest Hill, one of our sister congregations, Forest Hill Church of Christ. Always so attentive. Thank you so much for your presence tonight and your expertise. We very much appreciate it. I hope and pray that everything's going well down at your congregation, that you all are staying safe as well. So thank you so much for supporting young adult ministry and pouring into the lives of young people just with your presence and your high spirit on last week and again on tonight. So thank you so much. Let's see. So it's good to have the home team back with us. Kayes, it's good to see you back here with us. I'm a little nervous for a second. Thought we had to send out a search warrant on you.
Now time is you did not have to do that.
It's so good to have you back though. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I hope you had a good time off and you rested well. So it's good to always have our back saying and our Carlotta. And so let's keep each other prayed up. We have a couple folks that are out. And so let's continue to pray for one another. And thank you all again for the birthday wishes on today. I thoroughly enjoyed the day because I got to spend some of it with you all tonight.
Happy birthday!
So yeah, thank y'all so much. And so I'm just a year younger, y'all. I appreciate y'all very much. And so this concludes our Life Beyond the Stigma Part 1. We're going to release Part 2 next week, Life Beyond Stigma Part 2 next week, with Miss Erica Sadler from Tyler, Texas. So more information will be presented soon. You have our contact information. We're on social media platforms at CDView Crew on Twitter and Instagram, as well as Facebook, the Crew Young Adult Ministry as well. So feel free to connect with us on those sites as well. How are we feeling? You doing good? Okay. All right. See, thumbs up. We're doing good. Okay, so I want to close out with a word of a prayer. Are there any special prayer requests that you would like to share with us as we go to God in prayer? I'm going to end this live.